I don't know if this is the one that was unfinished the last time or if it's a new piece. I had 4 pieces total. It's a very, very nice piece of Cocobolo. You can see all that stuff going on there. On the back side, it's mostly blonde. Really pretty piece of wood. And I did make an adjustment, as you'll see on both of these quivers. I'm only adding 1, 2, 3, 4 holes. And to close the end of it, I take the opportunity to sew on the shoulder strap. And doing that, it seals this off, and I get kind of a 2-in-1 in efficiency. My favorite quiver ever is a bit longer. If you can see the length differences there, it's probably 4 inches longer. And it's a bit thinner. It's about the thickness of my thumb. Well, the width of my thumb, I should say. The thickness is, I don't know, maybe close to 1/4 of an inch, but I really kind of taper it so it has an almost oval shape. I do not know what this wood is. It's a beautiful piece of wood. Kind of reminds me of Purple Heart, almost of walnut. I don't know, and they didn't know where I bought the piece of scrap from. But it is, could easily be one of my very favorite woods. I'll show some spatulas and such made from the scrap pieces I had left over. Now the arrow pouch is a bit longer with this. I did 4 holes, and to tighten it up a bit, I just pulled the leather together and added some stitching there. Now this here is 2 pieces of leather folded, which makes 4 pieces of leather. On the 2 interior ones, I've put a grommet, and I figured that would stop it from, I need to tighten that. It would keep it from wearing, and it would last longer. If you don't have a grommet and you're concerned about that, you could just sew around the perimeter of the hole to reinforce it. Now this is thin, and it's just the way I prefer. It's thinner than the Cocobolo one down there. And it gives this feeling of elegance. This is a really stout wood. It's got some flex to it, and yes, you could break it if you tried, but if this is not used as a weapon, it's going to last many, many years. And yet the thinness provides this sense of both elegance and sturdiness. When you have a dozen arrows in there and you grab it right there, it imparts a good feel. To me, that's part of the aesthetics of a quiver that I want to use. It makes me want to use it. And with the shoulder strap, I've changed. I'm now just using nice, reasonable quality paracord, usually black, and I don't know how to braid, so I do the twisting method. You basically grab a strand in each hand, and you twist, and then fold, twist, fold, and it builds this tension on it that when secured from both ends, retains this twist, and it's got a nice tight feel to it. It's not loose at all. And I think that's the way I'll do straps from here on. It's cheap, it's far more abundant. I don't have to go to thrift stores looking for crusty old fungal belts and ass sweat and all of that. But that's the two quivers. And this is the latest aluminum thumb ring. I know no one cares about thumb rings here on this channel, although that's the biggest deal to me. That's what I do best. I make thumb rings much better than I make quivers. This is T6061 aluminum, and it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but it works quite well. And again, that hand sanitizer is the ultimate way to get a small thumb ring, a really tight thumb ring, on and off. It evaporates, but before it evaporates, it's a great lubricant, and depending on what you've been doing with your thumb, you're cleaning your thumb too. That's the aluminum thumb ring, and here I have 2 Brazilian ebony thumb rings. I don't take the wooden ones seriously anymore. They're mostly for art or low draw weights. This, it's more experimental. It's not really the style that I make. This one I think is a bit nicer. This is, again, Brazilian ebony. This blondness will have a tendency to fade, and it will become the color that you see in here. Eventually it will become black. But before it does, you get this blondness, and it's a very pretty wood. It has a reasonable hardness. It's a good tough wood, and I've done a hammer test on this, and it took a few smacks before it cracked. Much more than average. Ipe, despite being really hard, it breaks, and when it does, those splinters are terrible. Some of the worst of any wood there be. And that's more the style I prefer there. And with the wooden thumb rings, because of the material, they end up being a bit more bulky. You can't refine them quite as much as you can bronze or even aluminum. But for a wooden thumb ring, it's still pretty elegant. It's a nice thumb ring, nice and comfortable, and pretty secure. Alright, I know no one cares about thumb rings, so I'll just show off probably the highest dollar arrow I've ever had. This was given to me out of a pile of abandoned arrows, and it's a Victory V-Force 350 spine. And since I got the gateway feathers, I will be stripping these PU veins and putting some real feathers on it. But man, this thing, it just goes where I point it. Even if I have a bad shot, it goes where I was pointing it. Really good arrow. I wish I could afford to buy dozens of these things, but I don't foresee it. I do have 12 arrows that are pretty good quality. The same that I used for my Falco bow. And I'm going to tune those to the 45-pound Freak Samick shelfless left-hand bow. Good arrows, though. If you're in the market for some good arrows, I can personally recommend a V-Force HV Victory 350 spine, and that 350 spine works really well with a 45-pound bow. It's the most accurate arrow I've ever had. Either that or it's been blessed by something, I don't know. Alright. And with the quivers, I'll often have a piece of wood that either doesn't work for a quiver, or I'll have a small cut that I can do something else with. And I'll make spoons and spatulas. This is made of the same wood as my favorite quiver. I don't know what it is. I will end up drilling a hole through here, and they actually look significantly nicer with that hole. But it's a really stout, nice, dense piece of wood that I think will really hold up to oils and washing and such. And this is a Cocobolo spatula. I really hope it doesn't look as bad as it does on this screen. When I look at this screen, I can't see anything. But with my own eyes, it's a really, really beautiful piece of wood. And again, this is the same finish I'll often put on the quivers, and food grade. This is my very first spoon. This I do know the wood of. It's Massaranduba. It's kind of I think it's mostly Brazilian. It doesn't keep a fine natural finish all that well. Kind of looks a bit dull. But this is actually finished. These guys I still have a little work to do on. This here is, that's finished. That's ready for use. Finished with the same thing. And that's my very first spoon. Don't know if it's much of a spoon, but this was a gift to Mom. She had a crusty old spoon made out of some soft wood, and I figured I'd replace it with this. That's quivers and kitchen utensils out of some fine woods. Massaranduba, Cocobolo, unknown mystery wood, which is really one of my favorites. It almost has a purple heart quality to it. If you see it in person, there's a slight purplish to it. Really, really very nice wood. This is Maximo. I'm not a cat person. I've never been a cat person. This guy kind of changed that, but he's Maine Coon. He used to be a pretty big boy. He's getting a bit older, but he's an unusual cat. He used to make friends with the deer in the area, and there was a doe, a baby deer, and he would actually lay down with the deer, and the parents didn't seem to mind at all, nor the siblings, and he'd just lay there, right, snuggling with the deer, and he's a gentle guy. He doesn't attack things. He has a tendency to rescue bunnies, whether they want to be rescued or not. And he, at one point in time, put one under my bed that probably did need to be rescued because it did not survive. And I did not know immediately. It took a while to discover that, but as you can imagine, it began to smell kind of strange. Yeah, he did that. Thanks for the bunny. Didn't work though, did it? But since he was in the field of view, figured I'd introduce him.